for your individual needs. And how do we establish what our needs are? With this tool right here. It's called a Kilowatt EZ Meter. And I purchased this one from Home Depot, and it's just under $30. And again, the way it works is this plugs into an outlet, and this side plugs into whatever you're trying to measure, how much energy is drawing off of it. Indispensable. You have to have this to figure out how many panels you need, how many batteries you need, what size inverter, what size controller. This is the beginning of your solar array. So let me show you how it works. Alright, with pad and pen in hand and the different appliances that you want to use for your needs, we're going to start calculating how much energy we have to create in our system for what we want our intended purposes. So let me give you an example of what we're going to be looking at. Right here I have a conventional light bulb. Okay, it's a 60 watt, and as you see right here, it's drawing around 55 watts. Okay, now alright, that's roughly equivalent to the other conventional bulb, but it's a 10 watt bulb. Okay? So by purchasing energy efficient appliances, even though they may be a little bit more expensive up front, it's going to save us a lot of money because we no longer need so many panels in our array. We don't need as many batteries. We don't need as large an inverter and a larger converter. So what we would do is we would write how many light bulbs that we thought we would be running and write 10 watts on that. Okay? For each one. And let's continue. Let's just see what kind of items we'll be using on our array and how much energy we'll be needing. Alright, again, by purchasing energy efficient appliances, this bulb sheds almost as much light as this one does, but it requires 1/6 the energy of this one. I could run 6 of these, while in the past I could only run 1 of these. Okay, to put things in perspective, anything with a heating element is going to kill our system. This is simply a toaster, and as you can see, it's drawing 746 watts. I know it's going to be for a short period, but that would be equivalent to 3 of our panels. Well, how about a coffee maker? World lives on coffee. That shows us at 917 watts. What this is indicating, anything that draws heat, we're going to have to use a different form of energy, not our array, to heat that. Alright, what about a fan? If we put the fan on low, we're going to be at about 36 watts. Well, how about medium? Roughly 40 watts. 38 watts. Yeah, 40 watts. And high. Okay, so this is a possibility, having a fan. How about a radio? Now I have it on, I have the volume down. It's measuring around 3.5 watts. See? Doesn't draw a lot of energy. So what about a computer system? Our laptop here is registering 19 watts. For 19 watts, you can be in touch with the entire world with the internet. Receive all your emails and Skype. To give you an idea, you could run 3 of these with the equivalent of 160 watt light bulb. That's where we're at today. You have to be purchasing energy efficient appliances. So to summarize, I would like to have a solar array system, but I'm curious, how much is it going to cost? How many panels do I need? How large are each panel? How large is the inverter? How large is the converter? How many batteries do I need? And it again all starts with what are my energy needs. And to calculate my energy needs, I use a kilowatt. And make your list, calculate how often you're going to be using it, how many hours a day, and work backwards. What I need in energy terms, what will I need to generate that kind of energy, store that kind of energy, and you'll have a real good idea of where you stand for your system. Now, for our system, we wanted just pretty much for our office, so we knew that having an internet-based phone, having a wireless and our computer system on it, and having a few of these fluorescent compact lights or LED lights, that we knew our energy needs would be around 100 watts. So with 100 watts, we went with a 300 watt panel so that we would be insured to have enough energy. That's how we went about it. But let me show you how a solar system is going to work. Alright, we have a solar panel that everybody's familiar with, and it goes into a controller. And what the controller does is it takes the energy created and charges a battery. Okay? And then it goes, that energy goes and gets stored in this. This creates it. The battery is literally a bank. You hear people talk about a battery bank. It's a storage. And the controller changes the sunlight into usable power to charge a battery. So it's a battery charger. And then it goes into an inverter. And what that's going to do is take our 12 volts off the battery and turn it into 120 volts alternating current, what we use in our house. Now, if your solar panel is darkened because of clouds or rain or what have you, you can also have a backup to charge your battery off of a battery charger that's plugged into your AC when you do have power, or when you have a generator with gas power or propane or however else you wanted to run it. So that's an overview of a solar system. Now, a golf cart battery and a marine battery are what we refer to as deep cycle batteries, meaning they can be drawn down and recharged up. Okay, what we have here, our system is being put together as we were speaking. We're going to have 5 wires coming in here, but this is our solar charger, that MPPT that I was telling you about, and it's going to charge our battery, which is going to be on the other side of this wall, outdoors, in a cooler that's vented. Alright. So we have the array coming into this, charging the battery outside. And then it's going to come in, this is all DC, and it's going to go into our 300 watt sine wave power inverter. And that's going to, if you can see over here, that's going to take the power from the array and make it usable for all of the appliances that use 120 now. So it's very simple. We need a panel, we need a solar charger controller that's going to charge our battery, we need a deep cycle battery, and an inverter. And with these few items, we're literally off the grid, at least for our office needs. Something that should be noted, this system is entirely independent from the house. Meaning, if the utility company were to shut off power from the line, if we were going into our wiring of a house, you could get a backfeed and possibly kill somebody. So if you're going to be doing that, you'd have to do an entirely different system, and you're going to need to hire a master electrician. But our system is totally independent. If this would be ideal for like a retreat, a cabin in the woods, or your own house like we're doing here. But To start with, this is an exterior wall. Okay, and I have to knock a hole through it, a 1-inch conduit, so that I can bring in 5 wires. I've got 2 number 4s, which are for the battery. I've got 2 number 10s, which go to the array, and I have a grounding wire to ground the entire system. So the first thing we're going to do is pop a hole in this exterior wall. I've established where I want the wire to somewhat come through the wall. This is different than house wiring. I can't afford to have a voltage drop, so my wires to the battery have to be pretty short. So I don't have a lot of play like you would if you were running an outlet in a room. So right outside this wall is going to be the battery pack. The array is a little bit different. You can get away with a greater distance, but the battery is going to be pretty close to wherever you're establishing this setup. So I've established where I want the wires somewhat to pop out, and I'll show you how I'm going to put a hole in the wall and bring the wires through. This box is called a rework box, and there's 2 little screws over in the corners, and what happens is you stick this into the hole that you just established, and as you turn the screws, little wings come out, and as you screw it down, they work their way up and pinch the sheetrock, the back side of the sheetrock, to this little flange right here. And it'll do something like that. Now, you do that when you're establishing a new box in construction. But I also like to strengthen it by putting sheetrock screws into the side of the box up against a stud. I just stuck a pencil through my hole and marked the wall to get somewhat of an idea. But obviously you can measure up and say it's about 52 inches in my case, and how far across I'm going to come. And I just took a shortcut and marked my wall. So our first step is to find a stud location. Now you can use a metal stud finder and it'll locate where the heads of the screws are, or you can kind of roughly estimate, like this is a corner, so I know that there's a stud right here, and I know 16 inches off of that, or roughly, there's going to be a stud somewhere right here, and then 16 inches right around here. So right here is going to be a stud, and this is my height. So I'm going to do an exploratory hole, okay, to make sure that there's no plumbing and no wiring right here. I believe there's a stud right here, and this is the height. So I'm going to take a sheetrock saw. It's got a tip in it, and you can just kind of work it into sheetrock. Go slow, because we don't want to hit a wire or plumbing. And we're just going to work our way and see if we got a stud where I think there's one. And there is. I can feel the stud on the tip of the knife right here, the saw. So now I'm going to establish my box. So just roughly, you don't want to make this too large. You want to make it, because these flanges, if you can see, aren't very large. So we just want a box size that'll fit. So I'm going to center it, and we're going to put it right about here. And I'm going to do this trial by ear. I'm going to go very slow. I'm in no hurry. I'm in no hurry on this part. Yeah, right there's my stud. Okay. Just going to go slow. I want to create a little hole because I want to see what's in there. I want to see plumbing or wiring or what I have. Now obviously I got an insulation. I'll take my finger and I'm looking around. I think I'm good. Okay, my box on the inside is 3 3/4. So real slowly, I'm going to make this box hole the size I need. It's 4 1/4 in width. I'm going to come over 4 1/4. Using a speed square, I'm going to roughly square this thing up. Better too small a hole than too large a hole at this stage. And then we'll just enlarge it. But that's pretty rough what I'm looking at. Alright, this is real life, so I'll show you about home repair. Normally, there's a stud every 16 inches or even 24 inches apart. This is an old house, and they may have had a window here or a door here. You know, who knows what they did. But believe it or not, when I made my little hole, there's a stud here and a stud here. Approximately 3 1/2 inches apart. I need to come to this line. So I need to work this stud. I need to groove it out a little bit. So I'm going to use a jigsaw, and I'm going to use a set of chisels that are very sharp, and I'm just going to dig it out so my box will fit in between here. Be prepared for anything. I use my jigsaw to cut little grooves to score it, and a sharp chisel, and I'm just taking away a little bit of this stud so I'll get that box to fit in there. That's how it's done. Alright, I've got the size of the hole. I had to score out and use a chisel to eat away some of that studding because of the two so close to one another. And that's what it looks like. Then we're going to take the screwdriver, turn this in, and the wing nuts are going to come up, and I'm going to attach sheetrock screws to secure this really well. Alright. The way this is going to work from the other side, the outside of the house, the wire is going to come up through here, bend, and enter the back of the box. Okay, just like that. It's a 1-inch L. And so what I need to do is drill a circular hole through the wood clapboards on the outside of the house. And I need to drill a 1-inch hole in the back of this box. The way I'm going to do that is using a hole saw. It just fits over the threaded section just like that. Okay? I'm going to drill a hole through the back of the box and through the clapboards on the house. And to get this thing lined up, I'm going to drill a pilot hole all the way through the house. And that's going to be centered. And then I'm going to take the box out, use this, drill the circular 1-inch hole, and then drill the 1-inch hole through the clapboards. with the pilot hole that I just drilled with this. So I'll show you how I'm going to do it. First step is my pilot hole, just a simple drill bit, right in the center of my box. Okay, that's the pilot hole. Alright, I have the hole saw installed in the drill, and I'm going to use my pilot hole and drill out my 1-inch hole. Okay, now I'm modifying the back of this box. Okay, we have this nipple coming in, and it's going to be secured with this locking nut washer, like so. Okay. A quick look at our cooler that we've modified for our battery storage. We wanted to vent it, so we drilled 3 1-inch holes behind this vent and picked this up at Home Depot. And then it's watertight, so I needed, just in case water got into it, I drilled some drain holes. Alright? And then on the back of the house, we're going to have the wires coming down, and I just put a sweeping 90 into it, and then the wires that the array has are going to come from an underground burial cable up into here and then through here into the house. So that's that. A word about our wire real quick. This is 12-2. In our particular instance, it's 50 feet, and it's called type UF-B. What that stands for is underground feeder cable. And the difference between that and normal Romex is the wires are encased in plastic. There is no paper product in this, so that you won't get a wicking action. We're running 30 volts, 8.3 amps. 12 gauge wire is rated up to 20 amps, so we're really clearing that by quite a large margin. We're going to ground the system with an 8-foot grounding rod. Just pound it into the ground, and then we'll put a coupling on it and attach the ground wire to it. Alright, the hard work has been done. We cut a hole in the house, we assembled all our pieces together. Let me tell you what we're doing here. We've got a number 10 gauge underground feeder cable and a number 8 gauge ground wire attached to our pole where we're going to put our array. We dug a trench to our battery box, and in that box we have these 2 wires. And I have to connect this ground wire to our grounding rod. This is our 10 gauge underground feeder cable that's attached to the pole and our grounding rod. that we're just feeding right through the box and going straight up into the house. These are our 2 battery cables, number 4, and the one we brought to a 30 amp fuse. Okay, we just attached the plate to the box, and then the leg we went to the positive of the battery, and then we simply took the negative and went to the negative terminal. This again gets fed into the house. All of these wires go up the sweep and into our L. I took caulk and I filled the hole so that no bugs could get into the house through this, and I also caulked around the hole entering the house. If you've never cut conduit before, I have my L here and my sweeping 90 down here, and you want to measure from the base of the L to the base of the sweep, and you're about roughly 44.5 inches. Just mark your 44.5. And using some PVC cutters, put your mark in the center of that groove. Just ratchet down and it'll cut the pipe. You want to attach everything with glue and let it dry. I find that it really helps to feed the wire through in sections and then glue it together. Don't try to glue it all together and then run your wire through it. That's much harder. Through the sweep and then through the pipe, and then glue the sweep and the pipe together. Much easier than having the whole thing glued together in one shot. These are the 5 wires, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that are coming in from outside. This is the grounding wire that goes up the pole to ground the array, attaches to the grounding rod, feeds through the box, and comes through the wall. And we're going to ground it directly to our inverter. All right. These are the charging wires that come from our array, also down that pole, and connect to our controller, and they go into where you see the array picture right here. And these are our 2 battery cables, and they go to a bus right here. Now you've got a plus and a negative terminal that we also attach our wires straight to our inverter, and they get plugged in right here. Okay. Now we still have to get some crimps right here for our connectors, but we have 2 number 8 wires that are also going to go to these lugs, and these are going to be our charging wires to the battery. They're going to feed back out. So it's going to be attached just like that. That's what it's going to look like. Okay. Now, that's the whole system wired up. Let me show you a little exciting part about this. Say it's been cloudy for a little while and the array hasn't had a chance to charge up our battery. You can put your battery charger right next to it, plug it into the house, and just go straight to the lugs here and charge your battery instead of having to go outside and do it in the cooler. The only thing we have to do now is when the array comes in, I'll show you how to build a platform for the array and wire the array to the number 12 gauge wires and to that grounding wire. As a test to show you what's happening here, we have a lamp plugged in to our inverter, which is connected to the battery. And we're going to change the voltage from the battery of 12 volts to 120 alternating current. And just switch it on. There's no buzzing, there's no problem whatsoever. It works. We're going to be putting in a post that's 6 by 6 by 14 feet long to hold the array. And I just wanted to give you an overview of how we're going to do it. You could say, well, that's pretty simple, but some thought should go into it, because have you ever had a fence that just wants to lean all the time, or a clothesline, or mainly something that has a lot of weight on it would be like a garden gate? Let me show you why that is. Here's our hole and our footer, and you stick the post on top of the footer, and most people backfill with concrete and then fill in the rest with dirt. But what happens with that idea is you end up having a post with concrete at the base of it, and in essence you have a clump of concrete at the bottom, and it does this kind of thing. Okay? The way we're going to get rid of that is we're going to dig our hole, put a concrete footer down, and backfill with dirt a little bit. And what that will do is create a rudder for the base of the post. Okay? Then we're going to put a collar of concrete around it, and then backfill with dirt. And that rudder is going to keep this thing so the concrete ends up being a little bit higher on it and keep it from rocking. Plus, we're going to drill 1/2-inch holes all the way through in both directions of this post and put rebar in it. And that's going to tie the concrete to the post. And then again, backfill. So that's what we're going to be doing next. Alright, roughly 16 inches up from the bottom of the post, I'm going to be putting in some rebar. Wearing safety glasses because of this cutoff wheel. We're going to cut this at 16 inches. This is simply rebar stock, 1/2-inch. And it's a 4.5-inch grinder with a cutoff wheel. 16-inch in length rebar that's a 1/2-inch thick. Drive it into our holes. So you get something like that. About even on each side.
we're going to be mixing 160 pounds of concrete, 2 bags, around this hole. Okay. I like my mix a little bit dry when I'm putting in a post, so you can water it down a little bit more. We're in a very sandy area anyhow, so if you have too much water, it'll drain away from it anyhow, but it's stronger when it's drier. You want to make sure, again, you plumb this way and this way, and you want to make sure that the face of your post, wherever it is facing south, because that's where your array is going to go.